Hi, guys. I am Dr. Sheila Sapp of Sheila E Cares Educational Consulting and Services, and I am so delighted today to have with me Mrs. Tracy Fettinger. I had to make sure I got her last name correct. And she is here to share her story with us. She's a local author, an educator, and has a small business. And many of you may know her as Chef Tracy. So we'll go ahead and get started. And Mrs. Fettinger, how are you this afternoon?
I am doing well, and I am so grateful to be here with you today. Thank you very much.
Um, I am, as I said, I'm delighted to have you here. And I just want you to share your story. You indicated that in your mid 30s, you were diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. So I wanted to ask you, how did that bring you to where you are right now? What is your why about this journey that you're on now?
Well, it's a big answer, but I honestly, and it even says this in my book, that I and my family actually look at my MS diagnosis as a blessing because of what it's done in our lives. And the reason, my biggest why is because honestly, when I got my diagnosis, I didn't really know a whole lot about MS. What I knew was that the people that had it could no longer do what they were doing. And I was young. Most of the people I knew were older. And I was thinking, my goodness, this is going to be life ending. Like, wow. And so luckily it was not. It was life changing, but not in the way that I thought it would be. We've gotten a lot of positives out of it, but I just really want to share my story because the more people that I meet with MS, I just want them to know that there is a way that they can thrive, and there is a way that they can continue to do what they love. They might have to change it up a little bit and do it in a slightly different way, but there are so many out there that just they've lost hope and they don't feel good, and I want them to know that there is an option for them. And I had to do it all by myself. I had to figure it all out on my own. I mean, I had a little bit of help with some family members, but living in a small town and everything, and so many times it is a very isolating condition. And I want people to know that they're not alone. And I want people to know that, they have someone else is going through what they have gone through or maybe will go through that can help them out and listen and understand. It's what I hear a lot from patients with MS is, oh, my friends just don't understand. And it
Mm.
is hard to understand if you don't have it, but I want them to know that there's a way because I'm living proof that you can still do what you love and still function and feel good while you're doing it.
I want to mention to you that my sister in law was diagnosed with MS, and it's been a couple of years now, and she is older. And I just can't imagine here you are in your mid 30s. And I wanted to know, was it a long time before they were able to diagnose that what you were experiencing was MS? And what were some of the challenges? You mentioned some about being in a small town and you didn't know a lot about it, but what were some of the other challenges you faced?
Well, I do feel very fortunate that I believe I was diagnosed fairly early in the progression of my disease. Number one, just as years have gone by, they've gotten better and better at it. But I think also where I was when I went to the hospital, they had a neurology department that was just top notch and several MS specialists there. But a lot of people do go through years of trying to figure out what's wrong with them. And so I look back now that I know what I have and some of the common symptoms, and I would say maybe about 2 years from the symptoms that could have been related to MS to diagnosis. But I only ended up in the hospital once, and that's when they decided what I had. MS is a diagnosis of exclusion. So they look for certain key indicators, but then they have to rule out everything else. So you have to take all these different tests and answer all these different questions. And so if you have certain key indicators and then you don't have any of these other diseases that are more easily pinpointed, then they say, okay, you have multiple sclerosis. And so the hospital stay was not fun by any means, but the very first obstacle I had to overcome was the reason that I went into the hospital was because I started getting numb and tingly in my right big toe. And before long, it was all the way up my leg and actually both legs and to my torso. And that really freaked me out because when you are numb and tingly to here and your heart is here, you're thinking, okay, I got to do something. And it was almost like when your limb falls asleep and it wakes up, it's not really painful, but over 2 weeks time, and that's all you're feeling, it really did become painful. I could hardly walk. Because again, it started in my feet, and that was very, very trying. I am, as my book says, a girly girl. I like to wear my heels and be all, dress a certain way and be all cute, but I couldn't wear my heels for a while. I had to find shoes that didn't cause me to trip, and they were not pretty, and that was very sort of self-defeating. I don't think of myself as a vain person, but I like to do certain things. I'm that girly girl, and I have to wear these big clunky shoes that aren't dainty and pretty, and so those are some vanity issues that I had with it. But the balancing issue was a little bit of a problem. I still, if I'm on uneven ground, have to be a little bit careful, but most of that has disappeared. I never really got a cane, but it looked like I was heading in that direction. But I would always have to hold my husband's hand if we were walking on uneven ground. But the biggest obstacle, like I said, was just learning, okay, what is this? What does this really mean to me and my life? And how can I do something about it?
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing some of the changes that you had to make. And as I mentioned earlier, you're an educator. And so you were able to, I know you have a passion for children, and you also have a passion for cooking. And you were able to bring the two together. And I wanted to ask you, at what point, because you did say it was really devastating, at what point did you decide to change the narrative of your story and your experience into a positive one?
I can pinpoint that, but I do know that at one time I used to thrive on the stress and the pressure. I loved it. Well, I was at school when the doors opened, the janitors had to kick me
Yes.
out, and I was taking stuff home, but I loved it. And I loved doing my utmost for the kids. And when I got this diagnosis, it was just one of those things where I just couldn't take that pressure anymore. I remember I was at school one day and it had been a really stressful day. Long story short, I was at a charter school at the time, and I was actually having to deal with children a little older than what I usually deal with at the time. And then we had this really long dismissal process because the charter school didn't have buses. The parents had to bring them and pick them up, and it was really hot outside. And I had just made it through dismissal, And I came back in and I sat down and I couldn't move. My legs wouldn't work. And I just wanted to kind of cool down and restart, and I just couldn't. And that's when I was like, wow, I can't do what I love anymore. So it took a lot of prayer. It I've been told it took some bravery to quit my job, but it was like, I'm not doing anybody any good if I can't actually do my job and causing detriment to my health. But I just really started praying, God, help me find something where I combine both of my passions. And I love children and I love teaching. And actually my MS is what caused me to start loving how to cook, learn how to cook, and then loving to cook. And now I actually miss being in the kitchen instead of dreading being in the kitchen. And God answered that prayer. He, through a very intricate woven web, he introduced me to someone and then introduced me to someone else, and I found out about this possibility. So being able to teach kids how to cook, so I'm still teaching, it's just a blessing. It really is.
And I do want to add, your cooking is healthy. Healthy cooking, eating vegetables. So children learn healthy things to make for themselves as well as adults. So I wanted to ask then, what led you to write the book? And I just love the title. I have MS, but it doesn't have me.
That was actually my working title. I was like, oh, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and then I'll think of something better later. And just the more I wrote and the more experience and everything, I just really liked it. And but it's really funny, what led me to write the book, I had people tell me all the time, oh, you need to write a book. I'm like, no, I'm not a writer. But I went on a cruise. We had a celebration year. We were celebrating several things, and we went on a cruise. It was called the Holistic Holiday at Sea. It was really great. They had all kind of educational things. Of course, being a teacher, I love that. And then they had a survivors panel that they invited me to join. And so several of us with different diseases who had overcome were able to share our story, just quick 2-3 minutes each. And then there was a couple of questions, and that was it. And so I kind of did my spiel, and I had so many people come up to me after that. I would just be walking around on the boat, and they were like, hey, you're the lady with MS that we heard speak today. You won't believe, how much that made a difference in the way that I'm thinking about my disease, or I'm so getting the CD so that I can send it to a friend because they had recorded the testimonials. And it just hit me. I was like, I love chatting and telling my story. I'll tell my story to anyone, but it really gave me a sense of there's a broader audience that I can reach, and I can't sit down with everyone and tell them my story face to face. So I kind of feel like God finally told me, like, I've been sending you all these signs, all these people saying you need to write a book, and I'm telling you, you need to write a book. So I was like, all right, I'm going to write a book. And it was quite a challenge, but again, being an educator, we're also forever learners. So I had to learn and stretch and grow, and it was a bit of a challenge, but I just love that I can, give someone a book that's having a difficult time. I've had several people say, oh, I'm buying this for my cousin who is really struggling with MS, or not even MS, just an autoimmune disease itself. So I feel like it just finally happened, and it doesn't even seem real even now, but I finally have something in print, and I love it that I'm able to reach out to people that I can't sit down with.
And I see you have a copy of your book there. I was wondering if you would just hold it up and just give us an idea of the chapters and what you discuss in your book.
Yes. One of the things that I wanted to do, and I've had several people who know me tell me, "Oh, that book is so full of you. Like you can really tell. Like you didn't have a ghostwriter or anything. You wrote that book." And so there's a little bit of my personality in it, but my chapters are what? Really? Can you believe it? There's more? Need a little help? So they're all sort of like questions, because that's where I felt like I was when I started. I just had question after question after question. And I know those chapter headings don't really give you a whole lot of information about what they are, but it just starts from the very beginning about how I decided to write the book, and then goes through my diagnosis, and it goes through all the different struggles and the challenges, and then the successes that I was able to face. I also have some contributors that wrote in, some people in my life that saw me go through it, that experienced it with me, so to speak. And so I was able to get some input from them that I really appreciated. And then, of course, at the very end, I had to supply some recipes and some resources for people. So there's definitely I have people all the time. Are any of your recipes in there? Well, yes, I couldn't write a book without including some recipes. So
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I know that you love cooking. Well, I mean, I'm not really into cooking, but I believe that I would try some of your recipes. And I just wanted you to share any upcoming events or projects. Maybe you've done something before our interview that you would like to share with the audience.
so I am working on trying to get a few book signings in different areas, and I am running into some obstacles, but I don't usually let that stop me. But I don't have anything right now that's solid on the books as far as book signings go. And really, I'm just, other than my summer camps with veggie cooking, I don't have anything on the menu. I'm used to having a little bit slower paced summer being an educator, so I decided to kind of slow down a little bit. But then in August, things start rolling with my after school cooking club. I do adult classes as well, but those are by request only. I have a couple of moms who have contacted me about a mommy and me class for like ages 3 to 6 that I'm trying to get going, but I don't have that all nailed down just yet. But everything, anytime I do any kind of event, it's definitely on my website, veggecooking.com/Camden, as well as on my Facebook page, which is Veggie Cooking Camden. And I do have a Facebook page for my book as well, and it's actually just my journey to wellness with an autoimmune disease. It's the subtitle of my book, where I post different things throughout, when I have an event specifically for the book, or I just find something, an article that I think someone might enjoy. So I do have both of those venues.
Wow. It sounds like you have quite a bit going on or coming up in the future. There's something else that I wanted to ask. As you know, we're in a small community, and with your experiences with MS, have you ever thought about starting a support group? Or do you feel that there are enough people in the county that you could probably start a support group of those individuals who may be suffering with MS, or the the parents of or siblings of someone who may have MS? Have you thought about that?
I I have not, only because for a while pre-COVID there were support groups happening. They actually were happening in Camden, and then when uh, UF Health came to North Jacksonville, they kind of said, well, we're just going to move it to there. But then, of course, shortly thereafter, everything just closed down. And I know a lot of groups went virtual, and I have not thought about that only because getting a business off the ground has taken quite a toll. It takes a lot of energy, and although I feel like I have a lot, I also have to limit what I can do. But I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to doing something like that. I know that there is a pretty fair group here locally, only because of the groups that were going before. They were fairly well attended. So it's something
Okay.
I can definitely think about.
When you mentioned some people having it virtually, that's what I was thinking of. Maybe you could do something virtually or have a blog or set up something where maybe they can email questions in. And one of the things that I want to go back to, you mentioned the fact that your book would be good for anyone who has an autoimmune disease, not necessarily MS. So I wanted to ask you, for people who may be watching this interview, what do you want them to learn or take away from what you have shared about your experience with MS?
So, yes, I do think it could help anyone with health condition, especially an autoimmune disease. And my biggest message that I try to impart is that you can change your health. You have the ability to be healthy. Now, everybody's idea of healthy is different, but you just have to want it. And I've got to go back and figure out who said it, but I love what I heard back a couple of months ago. They said, your why has to be big enough to make you cry, or the effort it takes will. In other words, if your why isn't big enough, you're not going to do what it takes to get there. And I just, a lot of people think that they don't have control, that it's up to the doctors or it's up to someone else, or that it's just not possible for them to do anything, even if they feel like, okay, I can do this or that. They don't feel like they would get the results. And it really is about becoming your own advocate and putting yourself first, your health first, because the way I see it, my mission is to help people on their journey of health. But I can't help people if I'm not healthy. So the healthier I am, the better I get to fulfill the mission that I really feel like God has given me. And that is to help others take their steps. And their steps might not be exactly the same as my steps. And that's okay, because we're not the same people. We might not want the same results. But you can change your health. It just takes effort, and it takes, like I said, having that really big why. And then it takes some knowledge that I have learned and garnered over the years, and just want people to know that I'll share it. You don't have to do all the work. I've already done it for you.
Well, I just want to say I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your journey with us. And you did give some contact information. And when this is uploaded to YouTube, I will make sure all of Mrs. Fettinger's contact information is in the description. If you have any additional questions, or if you just want to email her and talk to her about your experiences. So, you know, the other thing that I like is your statement about why, that it has to be big enough to make us cry to do something about it. And for all of you out there who are watching, I would like you to keep that in mind. And Mrs. Fettinger, before we sign off, is there any last words that you would like to say?
Well, I do apologize. I have a storm overhead right now, so it looks like we lost connection there for a little bit. Luckily,
Oh,
I got on right as you were saying, is there anything else you want to say?
All right,
Uh,
just in time.
yes, indeed. My book is available on Amazon in as an ebook or in paperback, and I also have copies as well. So you can either contact me or um, go through Amazon, whichever your preference is. They will get it to you in 2 days if you're an Amazon Prime member. And if you have an event that you would like me to be at, if you want me to share with someone, or even if you just want a one on one sit down, chat over some coffee, I am available to fulfill that mission, like I said, that I feel God gave me, is to help people take that next step on their journey to health.
Thank you. And we really appreciate you being with us this afternoon. So, people out there, take care and do get her book. Bye.